Alright, so let's continue from here. The bar graph shows the differences in cities' rainfalls from the historical averages. What is the average rainfall per month over the course of 1 year in this particular year? Alright, so we have historical averages here. We have all my reds. All the red bar graphs represent the negatives. All the blue ones represent the positives. So I want to find the average. So I need to find, in order for the average, right, if you recall, we're going to find the total, and we're going to divide by the number of months. Well, the number of months is easy because it's 12 months in a year. And now we just need a total. So I'm going to add up all my negative numbers here. So I have negative 0.5, negative 0.45. I have negative 0.88, negative 1.67, negative 0.96, negative 1.35, erase that, negative 1.35, negative 0.9, and negative 1.39. And if I total this, drag these over here. Alright, and if I total all these negative numbers, I'm going to get negative 7.6. Then in blue here, I have all my positive numbers here. So I got positive 0.94, positive 0.83, positive 2.36, positive 1.39, and positive 0.35. And if I add up all my positive numbers, I'll get a total of 5.87. And now I have a negative 7.6 and a 5.87, so I'll do a little math here on the side. So 7.60 minus 5.87, right? So I have different signs, so I'm going to find the difference of the numbers. One, I have negative 7.36, positive 5.87, so I'm going to subtract the two numbers, starting with the larger of the larger absolute value of the two numbers. So 7.6 has more units than 5.87, and then I'm going to subtract these two. So I'm going to borrow here, make that a 5, bring this a 3. I need to borrow again, make this a 6. 15 minus 8 is 7. Bring down my decimal, and I have 1.73. But since I have more negatives, it's going to be negative 1.73. So now I have negative 1.73 as my total rainfall over that year. And then I'm going to divide this by 12. So 12 goes into negative 1.73 how many times? I could neglect the negative sign here for a second, and I just think about, well, negative divided by positive is going to be a negative, and start. So 12 goes into 1, 0 times. I'm going to bring up my decimal. 12 goes into 17 once. So bring down my 2, and I get 7 minus 2, which is 5, and I'm going to bring down my 3. 12 goes into 53 4 times, that's 48, and I can borrow here, and 13 minus 8, and I get 5, and bring down my 0, and I can do this again, and I'll get 4 again, 48 again, and I'm going to call it quits here, and I'm just going to round this to the nearest hundredths place, so 0.14, so about 14 hundredths inches per month is how much rainfall. So it's losing, so this particular year we're losing about 14 hundredths of an inch per month on average. All right, next problem. The farmer needs to enclose 2 adjacent rectangular pastures. Adjacent means right next to each other. 2 sides are right next to each other, one another. All right, how much fencing does the farmer need? Well, if you look at the fencing here, we have, this is 15 5/8 from here to here, and this is going to be 15 5/8 from here to here, so I need 15 5/8 and another 15 5/8. And I could either write this as, I got a little sloppy there, and I could either write this 15 5/8 plus 15 5/8 or 50 5/8 times 2. Alright, either one of them would work. I'm going to go with the first option here. Alright, just makes the math's going to be a little easier on this one. Alright, so if I add these two up, I'm going to get 50 and 50, which is 100. 5/8 plus 5/8, I'm going to keep my common denominator, and 5 plus 5 is 10. I cannot have 10 and 110 eighths. So it's going to be 101, right, and 2 eighths, or 101 and what, fourth? All right, and then I'm going to add up these sides. So I have 30 and 2 ninths. And I have 1, 2, and 3 of those, so plus 30 and 2 ninths again, and plus one more time, 30 and 2 ninths again. You could have wrote this as 32 ninths times 3, either one of those. 30, 30, and 30 is 90. 2 ninths, 2 ninths, 2 ninths is 6 ninths. So I got 90 and 6 ninths, or 90 and simplify this, divide both by 3, and you get 2 thirds. So now this is where I stand so far. So now I have 101 1/4, 90 and 2 thirds, and I need to take these two numbers and I'm going to add these two numbers. So I'm going to write those down on the side here. So I got 101 1/4 plus 90 and 2 thirds. All right, remember when you add fractions, you need a common denominator. Common denominator here is going to be between 1/4 and 2 thirds. It's going to be 12. So this is really times 3. To get my 12 here. This one's going to be times 4 to get my 12 here. And when I do so, I get 3/12 and 8/12. And my 101 and 90 will stay the same. So then I'm going to add these two fractions, 3/12 and 8/12. 8 plus 3 is 11 over 12. 101 and 90 is 191. So 191, 11/12 yards. Is how much fencing the farmer needs. Next problem. Section of the boardwalk is made using 15 boards. Each board is 9 1/4 inches wide. The total width of the section is 144 inches. The spacing between each board is equal. What is the width of the spacing? Alright, so if you think about this for a second, what are we dealing with? So we have some kind of section here, and in that section we have, let's go with we have 15 boards, and in between each board, so we have about 15 of these. Alright, all the way down, and we're looking for, and the total section here is 144. Each one of these boards here is 9 1/4, and the question is this here, this is my spacing. And the question is, how much is each spacing? So let's see what we know. We have 144 inches altogether, right? And I'm going to put those two little marks there, two like quotation marks that represents inches. One would represent feet. So we have 144 total inches. We have 9 1/4 inches per board, and we have 15 boards. So I could get the total spacing if I take the total space of the whole section, which is 144, and if I take away the 15 boards that are 9 1/4 inches each, so I'm going to do 15 times 9 1/4 to figure out what all the boards are equal to, and subtract that from the total section, which is 144, and this will leave me with the total spacing. Right? I didn't answer the question yet because I want to know what the width of the spacing between each board is, but let's get there first, because then I can figure out the total spacing first. So 144 minus 15 and 9/4. So let's do this one first. I'm going to do 15 and 9/4 times 15 here on the side. So I've got 15 over 1 times 9 and 1/4. 15 over 1 times. Alright, so I need to make this a improper fraction. 9 times 4 is 36. 36 plus 1 is 37 over 4. And let's see, does anything simplify? Well, nothing happens to simplify here, so that's not going to make life that much easier. So we're really going to get 555, right? 15 times 37 is 555, and 1 times 4 is just 4. So now I have 144 minus 555 over 4, and I'm going to convert this into a mixed number, so this goes in there. Let's see, 4 goes into 5 once, with a remainder of 1. 4 goes into 15 3 times. 4 times 3 is 12. 15 minus 12 is 3. The remainder of 3. 4 goes into 35 8 times. 4 times 8 is 32. With a remainder of 3, so 138 and 3/4. All right, and you can do division. So I did that a little fast, but if you want to do the division separately, you can do it this way. This is a little shortcut here. Right, 4 goes into 5 once, subtract, bring down my 5. 4 goes into 15 3 times, 4 times 3 is 12. Bring down my 5. 4 goes into 35 8 times, there's 32, and 3/4, right? So either one of these. Right, and now I have 144 minus 138 and 3/4. All right, so perfect. Be careful here. So I'm going to subtract 138 from 144, but I also have to subtract another 3/4. So if you want to write this as 143 4/4 minus 138 and 3/4, that's one way to look at it. And then you can subtract 3/4 from 4/4, which is 1/4, 138 from 143, and you get 5. Right? Or you could look at it as if you take 138 from 144, you get 6, but then you also have to take away another 3/4, so you'll be left with 5 and 1/4. So this is my total spacing. Now it wants to know each spacing. Well, you have 15 boards all the way down, so all the way down to my 15th board here, right? This would be the 15th board. So if I have 15 boards and I count the spacing in between all these boards, right? When I get to my very end, I'm not going to count that last spacing here, right? That's not going to be a spacing, right? So it's board space, board space. So because I have 15 boards does not mean I have 15 spaces. I actually have 14 spaces. Right, so board space here, board space. So if I continue that pattern, I would do board and then a space, and I would have 15 boards, 15 spaces. I'm not going to continue that pattern all the way down past the 15th board. I'm going to get to the 15th board and stop. So this right here will be my last spacing, which is a total of 14 spaces. So I'm going to take this 5 and 1/4, and I'm going to divide this by 14 to get, so I can get each spacing. So total spacing is divided by number of spaces, and I can get each spacing. So I got 5 1/4 divided by 14. All right, so when you're dividing or multiplying, you need improper fractions. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21 over 4. This is really technically 14 over 1. So I'm going to convert that to an improper fraction, change my division to multiplication, and take the reciprocal of the second fraction, so 1 over 14. All right, so we got 21 over 4 times 1 over 14. Simplify where you can. 21 and 14 are both divisible by 7. 7 goes into 21 3 times. 7 goes into 14 twice. And then I could just multiply across. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 2 is 8. So the spacing between each board is 3/8 of an inch. So all the spacing in here is, choose a different color in that one. The spacing here is 3/8 inches. And if I added all these up, I will get the total of 144.